Yeah, so this is for you, Chakra, but for everybody too. This whole thing of being in the back of the head so you can bear witness to your own mental processes and your reactions to the input of your sense organs. So, in other words, what you're seeing, what you're perceiving as reality going on around you, and how you're evaluating that in the forebrain. The what we call mindfulness, the ability to bear witness to yourself. In this Taoist system requires being in the back of yourself because that's where your seat of power is. That's where the view is best. It's like if you were a director of a play on its first night in Broadway, you stand at the back of the theatre to observe the audience reaction, i.e. observe your own internal reaction to the action going on the stage. So yeah, it makes sense. It's the Don's position or the Donna's position. You sit in the back of you. It comes from the martial arts, the Taoist martial arts, where you learn that you issue your strength from the back by putting your body weight into stuff, that the strength, the power in any kind of action comes from your back. Similarly, if you're being attacked by an opponent, when you're in your back, the fear that you'd feel in the front of you you would not be afraid, there would just be fear. And that's the point of it all. When you sit in the back and you observe, when the fear does arise, which it inevitably will, quite continually really, when anger arises, when confusion arises, when stress arises, you are no longer that. You are observing it. You're not in it. So you're not identified with that part of you that's feeling it. You feel the sensations going on in the front of the body. You see the pictures that you're creating about it all in the front of your brain, but you are not it. So you're not the drama anymore. I mean, I can talk about this in a million different ways, and I'm sure I will. But for now, just try it out. Coming into the back of the head is the easiest bit, really, because we're quite kind of used to our heads. We know our heads. What we're talking about here is proprioceptive sense, the ability to feel, to use your mind to feel what is going on inside your body, inside the arena of your body, rather than using your mind to engage in flights of intellectual fancy. You're using the mind merely to perceive what is occurring inside the body. It's called proprioceptive sense. And we're not used to doing that. We're used to using our minds intellectually. So any difficulty you have in doing this initially is only because of that. It's just because you're not conditioned to use the mind this way. Although this is the most natural way of using the mind. And okay, we'll start like this. If you put your finger on the back of your skull, just at the base there, and lengthen, like pull it up. So you're kind of lengthening the back of your neck. Your chin drops a bit. So your back of your neck is long now. And if you just start push back a little bit, push the head back into your finger, you'll feel there a kind of strain, just a little bit of pull. That shows you where the back of your head is. By just keeping that there for a moment, you can feel it. And by feeling it, you can gather yourself there. You become aware of it, you gather yourself there. Visualization is very helpful to most people. So over the decades of teaching this to people, the one thing that seems to kind of really work well is to picture your mind as a little Buddha with your face on, beautiful little Buddha with your face on, sitting in the front of the brain there, engaged in all the noise of the internal dialogue, going, oof, I had enough of this, standing up and walking purposefully to the back of the brain, to the back of the skull, which is like the inside of the sacred cave, and sitting down at the back of the skull where somebody has thoughtfully left a pile of very beautiful cushions, perfectly appointed and positioned so that you can sit back and lean your back into the rear wall of the cave. And doing that, you're able to gaze through the cave, through the middle of the cave, and out through, if you've got your eyes closed, out through the center of your forehead, or if your eyes are open, out through the two eyes, as if they're just windows in the front of the skull. Kind of no longer the organs of seeing, they're really the apertures that allow in the light, which in fact is how it works. The visual cortex, like the back of the camera, is back here. So that's what's really doing the seeing. And so that's what you do. You picture yourself sitting in the back of the cave and you just stay there. Now, the point about this is it's not just about the head, it's about the whole body. So internally, underneath that, allow the weight of your body to collect in the back of you. Just lean back inside so that you feel weighted in the back. You feel gathered around your spine, which is the strongest support system in the body. So it makes sense to kind of adhere to that rather than to the belly, which is not strong, it's weak. So if you know, relatively speaking, you stick to the spine, the solid structure more or less, you become solid, you become substantial. The other thing about being in the back is there's very little activity in the back. The back is just strong, it's well protected, it's silent, it's still. And that's what you become when you sit in the back: silent, strong, well protected, and still. Which is a good way to be because it keeps you in command of what's going on. Now, the front of you, by contrast, is relatively much weaker. It's unprotected. There's big open spaces, the belly, and so on. There's a lot of activity in all the organs, and the front of your brain is busy all day long telling yourself stories, and then the front of your body is reacting to those stories. So it's a busy, busy place. When you're in the front of your body, you become busy, you become noisy, insecure, vulnerable, unprotected, and so on. So it makes sense. You learn to sit in the back, then you have command over the experience that the human is going through rather than the experience having command over you. I'll talk more about this with pleasure. It's an endless topic. I mean, it's really. I have to tell you that the thing is how you remember, because that is the hard part, remembering. If you can make an agreement with yourself that every time you notice yourself stressing about the world, stressing about yourself in the world, stressing about the future, stressing about what other people think of you, stressing about getting things done, not getting them done, whether you're going to achieve what you want to achieve or not, and so on and so on. Every time you feel yourself in any kind of distress, use that as your trigger to remember that you will now come back. So you don't try and resolve what's going on in the front. It's a conflict that will always be there, whether you resolve one thing or not. The other thing will pop up to be resolved. It's never going to be in a state of perfection because it's just not the nature of it. Whereas when you come in the back, you are in that state of perfection, and then everything in the front tends to resolve itself. Yeah, so remember, every time you notice yourself getting stressed, rather than being lured into this pointless spiral of thought that will get you nowhere, drop back instead, come out of it, and just sit and be thankful for being here, be appreciative of being here, know that you're okay as you are, everything's fine, and whatever you need will come to you, and whatever you have to deal with, you will deal with at the time. There's no point sitting stressing yourself about whether you're going to deal with it well or not now. You choose, you make your intention: I will deal with everything really well, I will deal with it all like a master, a warrior, and I will prevail. I will prevail. And have a thought for the world, have a thought for all humanity, in fact all sentient beings, and just send a wish for love, for healing, for peace, for everybody. And not just the words, not nonsense, just mean it. Feel it, feel the beauty of life, and just wish that to everybody. That everyone feels that, whoever they are, whatever they're doing, because it will help everybody in some way. And may our good intention have impact, because we need it now. Thank you.